By June 2026, a major cybersecurity crisis is rarely a brute force entry. It is a silent failure within the trusted environment itself. Most enterprise security still relies on a rigid perimeter. We protect networks using URL filters, data loss prevention systems, and endpoint detection and response tools that scan for known malicious signatures. However, the largest breaches of the year occurred without a single piece of traditional malware crossing these boundaries. The perimeters remained intact while the data disappeared. This shift is driven by living off the land tactics. Instead of bringing their own tools, attackers weaponize the native, authorized infrastructure already running inside the corporate network. These attackers have turned the tools of daily productivity, Microsoft 365 Copilot, Google Workspace, light LLM gateways, and Microsoft Teams into offensive assets. By operating within these trusted environments, attackers stay invisible to standard endpoint security. If the malicious action looks like a routine business process, legacy defense frameworks remain idle. To defend against this, we have to deconstruct three specific vectors: AI prompt injection, command and control traffic masking, and the manipulation of native routing rules. This analysis reveals how the platforms we trust have become data exfiltration pipelines that leave no trace on traditional monitors. The rapid enterprise deployment of artificial intelligence has created a new class of internal vulnerability. Microsoft 365 Copilot, designed as a productivity assistant, can be forced to act as a highly effective corporate spy. Researchers at Varonis Threat Labs identified this in a vulnerability chain called SearchLeak, which targets the Microsoft 365 Copilot ecosystem. This test reveals a critical blind spot. Traditional filters show a 0% detection rate against SearchLeak. The malicious link points to an official Microsoft.com domain. Because it is trusted, the filter issues a green checkmark, allowing the packet through. Once clicked, invisible variables force the Copilot AI to scrape indexed emails and files, silently moving sensitive data to an external server. This instability isn't limited to the user interface. The back-end infrastructure that brokers these AI calls is also failing. Obsidian Security recently uncovered a vulnerability in Light LLM, an open-source gateway used by organizations to manage connections across more than 100 different AI models. By chaining three vulnerabilities, attackers moved from a low-privilege proxy account to full administrator status, climbing the privilege ladder using the gateway's own internal logic. This takeover exposes every API key and secret stored in the gateway, giving the attacker total control over the organization's AI communication. Integrating high-privilege AI platforms into legacy networks has created a one-click bypass that goes directly through the center of the security architecture. Beyond data theft, attackers must also find a way to maintain a connection to infected machines without alerting the network's monitors. This is known as command and control, or C2 traffic, the constant data stream between an internal breach and the external hacker. Standard C2 servers are easy to spot. Their IP addresses are quickly blacklisted by enterprise firewalls. The Dragon Force ransomware gang bypassed this by moving their communications onto the systems the organization already uses. They utilized custom malware called backdoor.turn, designed to hide its traffic within a trusted service.
Usually, when red, malicious packets attempt to leave the network, they are rejected by the perimeter firewall. Backdoor.turn hides its malicious code inside the standard Microsoft Teams relay network. Since the firewall validates Teams traffic as mission-critical, the data passes through without friction. This approach evades data loss prevention systems because the outgoing traffic looks identical to a standard video call or chat message. By whitelisting communication tools, organizations have provided ransomware operators with a high-speed, untrackable highway out of the network. State-sponsored groups use these same tactics for long-term espionage. A China-linked group recently spent over a year inside North American research networks by manipulating native cloud rules. They began by harvesting credentials from RedCap research servers to gain a foothold in the system. Once inside, they avoided installing any malware that might trigger an endpoint alert. Instead, they used the credentials to log directly into the victim's Google Workspace panels. The hackers didn't need to break the system, they simply used it. They modified the native email routing rules to quietly auto-forward every sensitive defense email to external accounts. Because they used legitimate workspace functions, the data siphoning continued undetected for over a year. This silent manipulation contrasts with the high-pressure tactics of North Korea's Scarcraft group. Scarcraft uses fake Microsoft account security alerts to induce panic, tricking users into manually downloading narwhal rat malware. They also target software engineers through a campaign called Contagious Interview, using fake job offers and code review requests as bait. By targeting developers, they aim to infect the software build pipelines themselves, allowing them to compromise every user who eventually downloads the developer's tools. Whether it's through silent workspace rules or social engineering, the outcome is the same. Digital boundaries disappear when the attacker successfully impersonates a legitimate user. When attackers use official workspace rules and Microsoft Teams relays, they operate within the expected logic of the network. Traditional antivirus tools lack the context to flag these actions because they aren't looking for suspicious behavior, they're looking for suspicious files. In this environment, signature-based perimeters fail to detect the most sophisticated threats. The walls are ineffective against an adversary wearing a trusted uniform. This has forced a shift toward behavioral AI monitoring as the primary layer of defense. Behavioral AI is designed to catch the scenarios we've discussed by monitoring for deviations in account activity. It would flag a low-privilege user suddenly escalating their own access in LightLM or the sudden automated forwarding of sensitive emails in Workspace. This must be combined with a zero-trust strategy that assumes the interior of the network is already compromised and verifies every single action. This shift is creating significant anxiety for Chief Information Security Officers as they realize their current defenses are blind to these internal tactics. We are already seeing the market react. While legacy defense valuations are trending downward, organizations are reallocating budgets towards zero-trust and behavioral AI solutions, resulting in a 4.5% surge in that sector. Organizations can no longer rely on the idea of an impenetrable wall. To survive, they must focus on the behavior within the network, because the modern digital fortress is conquered from the inside.